I have a brand new junk journal flip through for you today, and I'm sharing some of my favorite journaling resources and techniques, including a trick that I use when I'm not feeling very creative and a layering technique that I discovered by accident. Here we go, y'all. Well, hello and welcome to Pink Paper Peppermints. My name is Melissa and I am so glad you're here. Today I am doing a flip through of my 2019 junk journal, and I had promised this like a week ago and I got sick for the third time since this year has started. So if my voice gives out a little bit, I hope you'll forgive me. I'm still kind of recovering. I'm on my last day of antibiotics and hopefully this will be the last time this year. So this little journal is 4 1/4 inches thick, and it is quite huge, but I love it. What I decided to do this year was I've got a signature for each quarter of the year, and in each signature I have 3 calendars or for 3 months, and you'll see that here I've divided it into 4, and I wanted to practice that cross-stitch binding that you saw there, and so that's why I bound it all in. But I've already started to think that I might do something different next year, which I'll tell you about a little later in the video. But the way that I put this book together was the same way that I put my Golden Book journal together, and I'll link that if you haven't seen that video. I described in detail how I did that. So when you first open the book up, you can see that I've got some pins stuck into the cover here, and this is my very favorite one. This is from Growing Meadows on Etsy, and I will link her below. And she's a little warrior girl there, and I just absolutely love her. I'd give anything to have that long pink braid myself. And I think those pins might do a little damage to my cover there, but I'm okay with that because I just love the pins. I've got a little tag here that I'm thinking I'm going to put on that cover page that I haven't quite done yet, and I've made a transparency pocket, and I just use regular adhesive. I thought it was going to show through, but it didn't actually show through. I have a tag from my Well-Watered Garden ephemera kit that I've used here, and I just typed my scripture for the year on it with some little mini thickers and a little girl from some Jen Hadfield paper. And all of the resources will be linked below if you're interested. This girl, I cut her out of the cover of a Hobby Lobby paper scrapbook album, and love her little top knot and cup of coffee, and she's just kind of looks like me or reminds me of me, so she had to be the front cover of my 2019 album. And this number 5 is one of those letters like you see on signs like this in front of churches and things. I found a whole box of these at an estate sale, and I was so excited and bought the whole box, and that's what that number 5 is. The number 5 has special significance for me, so you see it in my junk journals and albums a lot. The little tab that I've used here is from my Oh Happy Day collection. There's some tabs in that kit, and I've used a lot of Maggie Holmes paper in this book because I just absolutely love her paper. I cannot get enough of it. At the beginning of each one of my signatures, I've included a fold-out ledger paper to write my intentions for that quarter and my hopes and goals and everything. And so you can see I've done that there. The things that are private in the book, I'm going to keep private. I hope that's okay with you. But that's the only way I can really share is if I promise myself that I'll keep things that are private. This is a card that I've been saving for a long time, and it was just perfect for this spot in the book. And that little church is from a page that was actually in the Pink Lemonade book that I used for the cover of this junk journal. And this is a children's book page that I've used here. Here I have a piece of matte paper, and I created a pocket with a giant playing card. On the front of the pocket is a journaling card from my Prisoner of Hope journaling card collection that I've just attached with some stitches there. And I folded that giant playing card in half to create that fold down pocket, and I've got some tags on the inside. Those are all have some private journaling and things on them, so I'm not going to pull those out, but I'm actually not even finished with them yet. I need to add some ribbon and things. Another thing that I've been doing lately is little mini collages on playing cards, and so that's what that is. One that I was practicing. I've sewn some sequins on it and did a little textile collage. I also have been having fun with my embossing folders, and here I just ran a vintage envelope with my embossing folder through my Big Shot, and it creates such pretty texture. I really like that. And I've been just running everything through with the embossing folders lately. I sewed a ticket on the bottom there and a key tag with some sequins. And this little bow is from Ashleah's Bowtique on Etsy, and I will link her below as well. So on the other side here, what I did was cut the flap in half so that when I sewed it into the book, I'd still be able to open that flap and tuck some journaling inside. And there's some private journaling there. And then here I've just got a little packing tape confetti thing. I don't know what to call it. I've made a video about this and I'll link that. But I like to sprinkle confetti and packing tape basically and make little shapes and little tuck-ins and things with that. So I will link that video below. This is a pocket from my Rhythms of Grace collection, and I made these pockets with some vintage 30s quilt pieces. And tucked inside are some cards, also from my Rhythms of Grace collection. And I'm going to use these cards to write prayers and answers to prayers. And I haven't actually written any on there yet, but that's what those will be for. And I'm going to have those in that little pocket there. And it's attached to a children's, I believe, dictionary page. And this is just a vintage envelope that I've sewn some ephemera on. And a note from a very dear friend, Robin. Many of you know her on Instagram, and I will link her Instagram. She's just the funnest, sweetest lady. If you're not following her, you'll want to. I've got some tracing paper, or rather some typing paper that I ran through my embossing folder. And then I've got these page wraps. My page wraps, these particular ones were designed to go in a standard traveler's notebook insert, and I wanted them to be a full page size, so I just sewed them all together to create that full page. On the back, I have some packaging from some new washi tape that I got, and I really liked just the way the packaging looked, and I used it as a little tip in there with some private journaling behind it. And then on the next page, I've got another little tip out, fold out flap there from a new Kath Kidston ironing board cover that I got. I've sewn some fabric and silk flowers to it. And I have had the same ironing board cover since I got married, y'all. And I just had my 20th anniversary. And it's a seriously ugly one. It was a seriously ugly one. So I figured after 20 years, you know what? I think I'm going to buy a cute ironing board cover. And so I did, and it is really cute. This is a picture of it, and I put little doily wings on it. And I used my Studio Calico giant date stamp to stamp the date that I got it there on the top, and just a little ribbon tab. On that back page is some vintage wrapping paper and some sequin waste that I had painted on, and I just attached that for some texture there. So this is a children's book page from a book on birds with a little fabric scrap there, and another book page with a chipboard sticker and a pretty Susan Branch die cut, which, by the way, I found in my stash, and it has the date of 2001 on the back of it. So yes, that's right. I believe that's 18 years that I've had that die cut. If you remember, Susan Branch had a really cute scrapbooking collection a long time ago, so I've saved it all this time. This is a little piece of a traveler's notebook insert from my Rhythms of Grace. It's a feed sack print that one of the pages is made from, and I've just tucked in a little Swan card from Studio Calico with some yarn ribbon on it, and created just a little pocket there with that. This is a junk mail envelope that I think it's a credit card envelope, and I just love the shiny gold, and it kind of went with my new Shine kit. And that Keep Going tab is from my Shine kit, as well as the Faith card that you see there with the little eyelashes. That's from my Shine kit, and I've just attached that with some sewing with a little silk flower on some very pretty Maggie Holmes paper. I'm pretty sure there may be one or two other papers in this book, but I think it's all Maggie Holmes. I just love her. And so on the back here, I have a piece of ephemera that's got a cruise ship on it. My husband and I have been talking about going on a cruise someday. And so that's got some journaling underneath it and a little scripture attached to it from my Rhythms of Grace scripture cards there. And on the next page, as a family Christmas gift, we went to see Brian Regan in January in Austin. And so we went a little road trip and had so much fun going to that. I used a giant playing card as a tip-in and created a page about that and just kind of all our trip. And we parked downtown and we took a lift to different restaurants for dinner and dessert, and then back to the Austin city limits. And this is another example of where I've got some things covered up that were private. So that's what those orange sticky notes are there. This is the first calendar. This is January. And I started doing this a while ago after seeing a video by Gina at the Rebookery. She does these awesome junk planners. And mine's not really a planner so much as just sort of a memory calendar for me to remember what happened that month and places that we went and things that we did. And it's really fun to look back on, and I attach little receipts and different things from that month, and I've got one for each month. As some of you may know that have read my Instagram, January was a kind of a rough month for me, and so I've got that little Rooted in the Lord sticker. But it's so funny because then I also have the Nope button, and that kind of sums up January for me, how I was feeling that month. So on this next spread, this is one of my favorites so far. It's all about being a plant lady, and if you saw some of my videos last summer, I've started trying to raise plants, and I'm actually doing really well. I've got quite a few plants, and they are alive. They're not dead. And this spread I did, that was my plant lady kit that you saw there. This spread I did after we visited a greenhouse, and so I've used pieces from my plant lady kit and my well-watered garden kit. And on this picture, what I did was I sanded away some of the picture so that I could then type the title on it. So that was a fun little technique, and that's a great way for you to add text to a picture. If you want to add something, just sand away part of it and then type on it or stamp on it. And across on the other side, I have a Simple Stories page protector that I've sewn into my book. It's the 2x2 squares, and I've left the center square blank with some sequins because I really liked having that little scripture card on the other side show through. And so I just put those green and white sequins inside, and when you flip it over, you can actually see the plant lady shows through on the other side. And the pictures are pictures of my plants and the greenhouse visit. You can see there the plant lady that shows through on the other side. And at the top, I have cut out a flower from a vintage plant book, and then there's a picture of a little fairy garden that my husband bought me at the greenhouse, and a vintage handkerchief in that bottom right-hand corner. So on the other side, I have the little tab is from my Plant Lady kit, and then I've taken this ledger paper and run it through with an embossing folder, and I just loved the way that that looked. It's hard to see the texture in the video, but I'll include a little close-up if I can. And then when you open up, I've got some space there because I want to add some more pictures of my plants as they grow. The Swan card is from my Well-Watered Garden Swan journaling cards. And I actually have a video on how I made a shaker pocket with that card, and I will link that below. And that's actually this piece was a leftover when I was practicing that technique, and then I just typed a scripture on the outside of it, and instead of making it a shaker, I just used it as a pocket for these little tags. And these tags I created from my Plant Lady journaling cards. I just cut them into tag shapes, and I have a video that shows how to do that as well, which I will link. And I'm going to use those to write about my plants and kind of how they're growing with those other pictures that I'm going to add there. So on this next page, I have done a little technique that I do a lot of times when I'm having a hard time. I want to journal, but I'm just not feeling it. And I will just take sticker letters and write the scripture out with sticker letters, and not necessarily the expensive thickers, but these were from the dollar spot at Target, I think. Just any sticker letters. It just gives me something that I can focus on, that maybe I'm not feeling particularly creative, but I can get that scripture down that way. And my word for this year is steadfast, and that's my scripture to go with that word this year. And that's a little Dear Lizzie sticker there next to it, another Top Knot Girl. On the other side, I have my butterfly page wrap from my Painted Pages collection, and the page wraps come with the paint design on them already, but a little technique that I discovered by accident was I printed the butterfly out first, and then I ran it through the printer again accidentally, and I printed a traveler's notebook page on top of it, and I actually really liked that layering effect that it gave. It's like multiple layers of paint and hymnal pages on it, and then I stamped on it as well. So that's a fun technique to try, is double print some of your printables and see what you can come up with, especially those painted ones. You can come up with some really fun looks by doing those painted ones. And then I have that hymnal Traveler's Notebook insert as well. So you could layer painted pages with hymnal pages. I think you could get some really neat looks. So I also sewed a silk flower to the top of that and just did that with my sewing machine. And I actually did that before I attached the butterfly into the book. On the next page is a junk mail envelope that I was playing with some inks with, and I sewed a little piece of vellum behind the window just to give it some depth and some layering there, and just some art doodling on the back there. This is a really cute tag that I got from Shoeflower on Etsy, and I will link her below. She does these amazing vintage tags and cards that she crochets edges around to make into tags, and when I went to get the link for you, I actually found like 3 more that I want, so you'll probably be seeing more of those in my books, but they're just super cute. On the other side, we have some more Maggie Holmes paper with a little crochet square that was a practice square, and an embroidered flower and a heart doily that I just sewed into the corner. Then I have my February calendar, and again, apologize for the sticky notes covering up but personal dates and phone numbers and names and things like that. So you can kind of see that I just kind of sketch and doodle in it. I write dates and notes about my day and what we did and where we went and things like that, just for memory's sake. And then on the next page, I made a little stack here. This girl is from my new Shine ephemera kit, and I've just layered her up with, this was just a piece of packaging that I had played with some inks on, and then another book page, really just scraps that were on my desk, and just layered those up at the top there. At the bottom is a scrap of ledger paper with a piece of card from my Prisoner of Hope collection, and then underneath I've used some mini thickers to write out the scripture. And I always just feel like this girl looks like she's leaping, and when I ran across that scripture in the Psalms about, by my God, I can leap over a wall, I just knew that was the perfect scripture for this girl, and it almost looks like she's leaping over that little piece of ledger paper there. So that was some journaling I did that day. On the next page, I have just a stack. This is the number 5 showing up again, and that's some October afternoon paper that I've been hoarding for a very long time, and it's on a card from my beloved collection there. And this is a collage tag that I'm working on. It's not really finished yet, but I just add to it drawing and doodling and different pictures and things as I go. That castle is from the book that this junk journal cover is from. And then I've just got bits and pieces of vintage wrapping paper and maps and ledger paper, and did some modeling paste texture there. And that scripture is from a Chosen by Grace journal card from that collection. And I'm probably going to add a lot more to that. I just have it tucked in there for when I feel like working on it. As we get to the back of this particular signature, it starts to get a little plainer because I haven't worked my way back here yet. We're still at the beginning of the month. But there's the other half of that butterfly page wrap. And I've just got some matte paper folded with a doily attached and some more Maggie Holmes. And that Simple Stories page protectors, waiting for some more photos. That paper is actually from Elsie at A Beautiful Mess. I don't think she does scrapbook paper anymore, so I've been holding on to that one for a while. This is my March calendar with a little prayer changes things sticker, and that has been a huge impact in the last month or two, so that was a fitting title for March. Some more Maggie Holmes paper and a little tip-in book page on the back of that Maggie Holmes paper. This is the back of that envelope, and sewn on it is some vintage sequin trim from my friend Abby at Little Birdie Blessings. She has a super cute blog with lots of free printables and downloads, so I will link that below. Be sure and go and check her out. She has so many cute scripture cards and vintage downloads. On this page, another thing that I've been playing with is weaving, and it is so fun. I really have been enjoying it, and I wanted to just have a place to practice some ideas that I had, so I just cut out a square in the middle of my page so that I could just, when I had an idea like, oh, I wonder if I could weave pom-poms or sequin trim, or I want to try this technique, and I would just do that and filled it all up. And so I love the texture of that, and I'll probably do that some more in my book. If you're interested in like how I did that in the page, just let me know if you think you might like a tutorial. I don't know if everybody would want to do weaving in their book, but if you're interested, let me know and I'll do a video on that, how I did that. So this is the back of the page wraps that I sewed together. that typewriter paper that I put through the embosser, the envelope, that dictionary page. I've attached a little note card from my Color Notes collection on the bottom there. And there's my other half of my vintage envelope that I ran through the embossing folder with a Dear Lizzie sticker on the bottom there, and a little piece of matte paper. And that's the back of that Miracles card with some Maggie Holmes paper. This is a little piece of the original book that I just sewed to the edge of that back cover of this signature, and that's a vintage card, a little gift card that I attached to the top of that page. And that is the end of the first signature. So you can see that it's getting pretty thick, and I've still got a month left to work in it, so it's going to be pretty fat. What I think I'm going to do next year is, instead of sewing it in, I'm just going to do what I normally do, which is to make it a traveler's notebook style, so that I can take each signature out and work on it individually, because I think by the time I get to December, this book is going to be a little tricky to work in. I think it's going to be amazing, and I'm looking forward to it, but I just think I'll like it better if I can take the whole signature out when I want to work in it. But I really wanted all four to be together in one book because it represents my whole year. So I am going to show you the rest of the 3 signatures. I'm going to do one signature in each video because this video is already so long and it would be too long. So look for my next video. I'm going to show you the next signature, and I'll do each signature in a different video. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Do you think you would like working in a book this thick also? I'm wondering if I'm just crazy, but I love it. I love all the good stuff. But let me know if you have comments about what I used or techniques. If I missed something, I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you enjoyed this video, would you leave me a thumbs up or a comment, and maybe share it with a crafty friend? I would so appreciate that. Thank you again for joining me, and I will see you next time here on Pink Paper Peppermints.